Hello and welcome to Let's See It with me, Rebecca Tamwin, and Kiva Murphy. Today we are talking about taking up space.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good action and everything. Yeah.
Space.
Taking up space.
Give me my space.
Yeah. Back to bro voice. I think it's interesting that the first thing we both did when we said taking up space was become more masculine.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? We both went like, yeah, deeper voice. You literally got into kind of like power muscle stance.
Yeah.
And that was our instinct. When we think about taking up space, I think it is definitely that
Has a classic masculine energy.
macho energy
That
of
stereotype.
like, yeah.
Yeah, of like, I'm here, I'm
big,
here, and I'm...
Pay attention to me.
Ugh.
I'm here and it's all about me. When someone kind of takes up too much space, they're like the person who speaks the loudest and literally physically takes up the most space is deserving of more space.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah, it is interesting that that was our go-to.
Yeah.
Someone says take space.
Yeah, and we
immediately.
took it as a masculine thing and also not a clever thing.
No.
We took it as
Right.
idiot protein shake.
Yeah.
That's it. Pump the iron.
Do you even lift, bro?
How much you lift?
Yeah.
with those arms?
So, Kiva, do you feel comfortable taking up space?
Good question.
Or taking space? I think taking up sounds a bit like you're grabbing the space, but taking space, do you feel comfortable doing that in your day-to-day life?
Yeah. I mean, I teach and I perform an awful lot and I present an awful lot. So I am often taking up space and I'm often holding space for other people. As a teacher, I'm holding that safe space for an awful lot of other people. So there might be 15 people in the room and I will be holding that space, creating this kind of place for them to feel safe and to explore and to be vulnerable and to try things and fail and try again. So I'm holding this space of like, okay, I'll take up the space, I'll teach you a thing and I'll, the focus is on me and that's fine, I can take that and then I'm going to hold it for you guys. And I think there's kind of two parts to that thing. And I, in one part, love it. And in the second part, it is tiring. It is really tiring holding the space for other people. And I think that's the difference between taking up space in a good way or in a bad way. That I think if someone is taking up all the space, they never leave the space for the other person. So it's just like, whoom, this is me, this is my presentation, this is my idea, this is my TED Talk, but there's no space for you at all. So I think in an ideal world, you're taking it, but you're also holding it for other people.
That's very nice. The holding of space. The classic teaching thing. It's the classic, here you go, I'm going to hold you safe in this place. But you're right, that takes energy because you're giving energy to keep that safe space.
And pay attention to everyone in it and go, this person needs to, be given a bit more encouragement so they can take up a little bit more. And this person needs to be kind of brought down a little bit because they're taking up too much and they're overshadowing this other person. So it's that like, okay, you take a bit more, you take a little bit less. What about you two together? And so you're constantly paying attention to who's got the space and who's not kind of blossoming and not kind of who's peacocking and who's not blossoming, I suppose.
Because there are different levels and different people feel comfortable in different situations. You'll always have it, and we will have, most people have experienced this. When you're in a meeting or on a Zoom call or whatever, there's always those one or two people who feel very comfortable speaking, taking up space, and then there'll be the little quiet ones that unless they are directly engaged, unless space is given to them, they won't interrupt, they won't jump in to take that space because that's just how they feel comfortable. They need to be invited in to feel safe within it. And yeah, in teaching and in running a meeting or facilitating, I think you need to notice the different dynamics of the different people to make sure everyone is equally heard and feels like they equally have space to express themselves.
Yeah, because it really is intimidating. And if you're ever doing something in a circle or you're on a Zoom call and it's like, Rebecca, tell me what you've been working on. Okay, John, tell me what you've been working on. And you're going around. And I'm sure everyone has felt this feeling of like, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And when it gets to you, either you're like, oh no, I don't have any more opinions. Everyone else has said everything. I'm fine. So you just kind of fluff it over and don't take up any space. Or what often can happen is that when we feel intimidated or insecure or whatever, we'll speak super quickly and we'll just try and get rid of it as like, okay, this is my moment and this is my thing and I think we should do the spreadsheet and we'll do the Excel and thanks, bye. Okay. And you'll notice often that when you're in that moment, you stop breathing. You breathe after. So you're like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And you release all of that tension and all of that pent up moment of like, I want to take up the space for as little time as possible. One, like I said, maybe they're feeling insecure, or they're not feeling confident in themselves or in that context, or they haven't been kind of shared equally. But because they're probably seeing the other person taking up all the room and all the idea and all of the energy, and they don't want to be like that. So they'll be the antithesis, and they'll just be quickly and small, and that's it. And then they release the tension. And I think it's so easy to do that and so easy to get caught up. And that's the way that I do things. Whereas a calm, confident person speaks slowly, has pauses, and they take their time, and they take that space by taking their time, by breathing, by acknowledging their audience, whether it's on Zoom or in person. If it's one person or 1,000 people, same thing. And a lot of people, they say to me, I don't want to take up too much space because I'm worried about blanking. Right? And so I think that when we take our time, we go, what if I run out of the thing to say? You know?
The weird thing is, I sometimes feel when I take my time, you got more space to think.
Yes.
But it does feel intimidating. I'm now very, very conscious of the speed at which I'm speaking. But it does feel intimidating to step up and then take your time. And I don't know whether that's just me personally feels like that, or if that's a general feeling amongst certain groups of people in society that they have to get up and be like, I'm done, thanks, bye, I sit down now, I'm done. Don't look at me, I don't take up too much of your time, Whereas, you know, in all these situations, you are there because you're meant to be there.
Yeah.
Like
and
you're on
you have
that
a valid
meeting.
point of view. There's a reason for you to be in there. Even if sometimes we think, why was this meeting scheduled at, 5 p.m. on a Friday evening? And you're like, I don't want to be here. But I think in those moments is to challenge yourself. I'm going to still try and take up my moment. And there are loads of techniques that you can do. Things like we said about slowing down and just taking your time. And in those pauses, in those moments where either you're panicking, so you're like, I don't have anything, to breathe. It does so many things. One, it'll relax your nervous system and it'll calm you down as you get out of this like fight or flight panic mode. But also the person who's listening to you also needs that space to think about what you've said. So if I'm just talking, I'm really quickly and then I'm just going to, you won't listen to me. Anybody, because it's too quick and you won't be able to formulate an opinion or ask a question or think, oh, with this thing plus this thing equals this thing. And all of that flow needs time and needs space in your own head and when you're listening and when you're speaking. So the calmer you can be, the sit up straight, if you're standing, to plant your feet in the ground, to feel ground and to feel present. It's like, I'm here, I'm deserved to be here, and I have a point of view. It's, of course, like all the things we talk about in this podcast, very easy in theory and harder to do in practice.
Oh yeah, definitely harder to do in practice. As you were saying it, I was thinking, because I'm quite experienced at standing up in front of people and audiences and that sort of thing, or being in pressurized kind of performance situations. But I still do find talking as myself, so being sort of an MC or something like that, quite intimidating.
It is. It's really hard. It's a really difficult thing to speak in public, whether it's in person or on Zoom. It's difficult to share your point of view and to go, this is my moment. Oh, it's hard.
That is really tricky. It's really tricky. And I do wonder if there's a slight, potentially gender imbalance.
Yeah.
I guess women are less practiced at taking space and owning space and feeling comfortable doing that, because potentially there is a narrative within society that you must make yourself small and you might make yourself polite and quiet.
Don't rock the boat and agree with the other people, and
exactly,
they're probably bigger and stronger and faster and smarter than you.
Yeah.
Whereas more and more, I think female voices are being heard, and it's so with Big, we've started teaching these workshops on a Wednesday morning called Engage and Empower, and they're for women to take up space, to make themselves heard, to allow them to kind of to be themselves and to tell their story and to share their thoughts, and just to kind of get over this thing that's been built into us of like to not make it about you. right? I think we have this thing built into us as women. I think it's just gone on for centuries, of this idea of if you talk about yourself and if you take up that extra bit of space, it's ego and it's boasting and it's bragging and this kind of thing. Whereas I think if we were encouraged a little bit more across the board when we were younger to shout about your achievements. It doesn't mean shouting the loudest will make yourself heard, and there are some people who go way over the top, but I think we can be proud of our achievements and go, I'm really great at this thing. And to be like, it's okay, I'm really good at making my bed and making it perfect, and that is a skill that I have, and I'm really good at making my bed, and it looks lovely and beautiful and crisp and satisfying.
We played a game actually yesterday in improv class about talking about what you really like about yourself. So it's a beautiful game, but it sounds so intimidating when you first start to play it. You basically stand as a pair and say to your other person in the pair, what do you like about yourself? And they say things like, I like that I can cook nutritious food. And you go, oh, great. So whatever they say, it's like, awesome. Oh, great. What else do you like about yourself? And it's like, I like that I am a devoted sister. And they're like, oh, great. What else do you like about yourself? And you keep going and going and going and going. And you have to keep coming up with all this stuff that you like about yourself and all the things you're really good at and just giving yourself this additional praise. And I thought, oh, this is going to feel really awkward or like braggy or I won't know what to say. But it was actually really lovely and affirming and also fascinating about the other person.
Right?
You got deep fast. Standing opposite my partner, I was like, I feel like I know so much more about you than if we just, hi, how are you at the bar, la, 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 la. I suddenly had so many follow-up questions.
Yeah.
But you got deep so quick and I really enjoyed it. It was a really lovely way to connect with someone.
And it's a wonderful thing. And to bring that into a business context or like a real world, imagine if you did that in work and you're like, I'm really good at this thing at, I don't know, making an Excel spreadsheet. I'm really great at it. And if you talked about it and you liked it and you're passionate about it and you speak about it, then other people will come to you and they will go, oh, can you do this thing? I've heard that you've talked about that you really like this thing and that you're really good at it. Instead of being like, oh, well, actually, yeah. It's like, wait, you've got 4 years in Excel training. Shout about it. Allow yourself to, I don't have no idea if you can have Excel training. Is that a thing? Maybe it's not a thing. But I think if we allowed ourselves to take up that extra bit of space and go, I'm really great at this thing, whether it's work related or life related, then we would learn so much more about each other and we would get so much further, so much quicker. Yeah, I have an exercise. So it's an exercise that's called a secret skill.
Okay.
So I would like you to tell me a skill that you're really good at, a really specific secret skill, something that you're great at that maybe other people don't ever know about you.
I am really good at cracking a bullwhip.
Whoa, okay. I am really good at packing a suitcase and making it all really well packed and really I can get a lot of stuff in there.
Your skill's much more useful than mine.
Both are useful. Both are totally useful. And now you're going to take my skill, yeah, but you're going to brag about it like you are the best person in the entire universe about it.
Okay.
You are the number one.
Okay.
TED Talk level. Chum.
Okay. So, have you ever been there? Imagine it. You've booked this holiday. It's going to be the most incredible experience of your life. And you are in the process of packing your bag and you're stressed about it. But I don't get stressed about it. And do you know why? Because I am the world's greatest packer. I can pack to an inch of my life, like tiny little details, little hacks to get as much into that suitcase as possible. I have precision, I have technique, and no one can beat my incredible packing skills.
Amazing. Beautiful job. And then you go to the next level of the game and you have the same skill, the same one that I've just given you about the suitcases, but now you're a superhero and this is your superhero skill.
Ooh.
So you're now going to solve a problem. I'm going to give you the problem in the universe. The problem in the universe is, let's not go with the real problem because we'll just go into another thing. The problem in the universe is that the pandas have become all black. There's no more white on any of the pandas. And you were going to solve that problem with your packing skills.
Okay. There is a very serious problem in the world today, and that is that the pandas have all turned fully black. They're no longer black and white like they used to be, but that's okay because I am going to help out the pandas.
Please save us, please save us.
It's okay, pandas, I'm on my way. And you know how I'm going to help? I'm going to pack as many little white socks as possible for all of the pandas in the world. And I'm going to put these little white socks on your ears and your feet to allow you to be black and white once again.
Yay! Amazing. Beautiful job. Spectacular job. The reason I wanted to play this game was this idea that when you told me about your bullwhip, you were small, right? And you were like, oh, maybe I'll say this thing. I don't know if it's true. And even after you said it, you were like, I don't know if that's useful. That's not helpful in the world. Instantly, even though we're friends and we know the context, you said the thing and then you took away 45% of it by kind of going, it's not really that great. Whereas when you took my skill, you literally sat up taller, you started using your hands, you started using gestures, and you went, I can do this thing and I can do this thing. And you were proud and big and beautiful about it. And then when I made it into a superhero, I made it into the ridiculous, then you got even bigger and you were this feeling of, I can do anything. But we find it so much easier when it's someone else's because we don't want to take up that space for ourselves.
Because it's distanced from us. It's very easy to praise others and to big others up and to be champions for other people. But to be a champion for yourself, I think we do, it's all caught up in the, I don't want to brag, I don't want to be arrogant, I don't want to be big-headed, I don't want to, maybe even, again, insecurity, like I don't want the focus or attention on me. It's all that sort of stuff, which I think is kind of, as we were discussing, built in a little bit, potentially hardwired in, which is really hard to overwrite.
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, in Primero Pod, I think we talked about this idea of the circles of intention, right? And this idea of circle 1 where you're in your own head and you're in your own world. Circle 2 where there's a back and forth and we're kind of sharing and engaging with each other. And then some people, when they think about taking up space, they become this circle 3 where they take up all of the room there. It's the drunk uncle at a wedding who comes in and like, it's all about me. This is my anecdote. And they've taken up all the room, so there's no room for anyone else. Whereas if we were in this level 2, this circle 2 of intention, where like, I'm really great at this thing. What about you? And then I share the space with you and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Maybe with this skill and my skill, we could both make magic.
Exactly. It's about the back and forth. Yeah.
I mean, this podcast is a perfect example. You had this skill, you have this beautiful setup, and we both know different parts of different things. So like, let's do it together. Yeah. But that never would have worked if you didn't say, I'm great at podcasting and I'm great at voice things, and I'm like, I'm great at improv things.
Yeah, the skills came together. And that's, when you admit it. See, even look at the language I'm using. Admit it.
Yeah.
When you say and you declare and say like, yeah, I'm good at this thing, then that's a really lovely thing to put out into the world as well. You're not saying like, I'm really good at it. Ha. You're saying, I'm good at this. This is an offer of a skill, an offer of something that I can do. I'm good at this. Anyone want to collaborate on something? Anyone want to do this with me? This is what I do. Come talk to me if you want to ask about it. And it is also, we're not saying that with skills and with things you love and are good at and love taking up space with, that you can't grow and evolve and learn. Of course you can. Like, all skills can get better and better. But it's about being confident in the skills you have, owning the things you do well and being proud of that.
Of all the wonderful things that you're good at and all the skills that you have. I went to, just came into my head there when you were speaking. I went to this event a couple of years ago. When you arrived at the event, they had like an array of stickers that you would then wear so everybody could see. So one was, I have an idea and I want help. One was, I want to help other people. One was, I'm just browsing at the moment. So there are maybe 4 or 5 different colours. And so you could go to the event and you could be like, maybe I'm a producer, maybe I have money or time or ideas or energy and I want to help support somebody else, or I want to help someone, or I want to mentor someone, or I want to kind of give back. I have time and space to do that. And so you would look for the orange people like, oh, they need help. And also likewise going like, oh, I have an idea, but I need help. I need someone else to kind of share that space with me, and then together we can collaborate. But it was a really lovely visual thing. You were in this room with, I don't know, a couple of hundred people. You're like, oh, they're also orange. Oh, they're in the same place as me, and we can all kind of share this space together. Some people are at the start of their career, some people are at the end of their career, but we're all here together sharing.
I think it's nice to have those shortcuts as well, to get down to like the nitty gritty about what you want to achieve. When it comes to, particularly, it's a side note, but when it comes to things like networking, it can be a lot of wasted time of general chat, where it's like, what do you want? What do you need? And it's lovely to connect with somebody on a personal level. I think sometimes half of networking is that, just knowing like that they have a cat, or that they really love, I don't know, Indian food, or like, it's something, a personal connection, which is always really nice. But at the end of the day, if you're at a networking event, you're there for a reason, not just a social thing. It's often a business thing. So it is nice to have those little shortcuts, so you don't have to get through all the fluff quickly.
Yeah.
To be like, I want this. And sometimes people get quite scared. And I mean, I do myself, asking for help, asking for support sometimes. I quite like asking for advice, weirdly.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of like, I'm kind of a bit stuck here. Would you mind helping me out with this? Or like, what do you think of this? I've often had to think about it myself. And then I'll probably run it past someone maybe just to be like, what do you think of this? I mean, I already have my own opinion, but I just like to trusted advisors.
I think that's a good point, what you just said, is that you already had your own opinion. Because otherwise you can be so easily swayed. If you're like this little blade of grass and you're like, oh, I need advice. Great. Wonderful to ask for help. Absolutely. Sharing is everything. But if you don't really have a solid base and you're like, oh, please help me. And then someone says, I think you should do this. And you go, oh, okay, yeah. Because they took up all the idea and they had all the bravado for it. Whereas you're like, hey, I'm thinking about this. This is what I think. What's your opinion? Then great. Then it can be an actual genuine collaboration. Obviously, some people know more about something. If I need to know something about Excel, I'm going to ask, and I know very little. And that's fine. I can accept that. But I think not being too pushed around, particularly by people who take up all the space, because then they think that they shout the loudest and they get heard more.
Yeah, because it is this thing of taking up space in a kind of negative way. It's like taking all of the space, not holding any space, just taking it all yourself. And there is the classic example. I mean, I've never seen this sign before anywhere except in Barcelona, and it's on the Barcelona metro. And this is a physical space thing, so it's not just like an attitude thing. It's like physically taking space. And there's a sign about manspreading. So it's just a little, one of those little signs with a little person with their legs kind of just in parallel, and then another person with like their legs really wide spread apart with like a cross through it.
Being like, just take up your own space.
Yeah, just sit like a normal human. You don't have to take up all of the seats. Just keep your legs in.
Again, I'm going to the male
big
voice.
balls.
I got big balls. That's what I was going to say.
My balls are so big.
Balls are so big, can't cross my legs, can't keep them closed.
Possible for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's absolute rubbish. You can sit like a normal human.
Or go and stand.
Yeah, stand
go
up.
Go and stand if your balls are too big.
Oh God, if your balls are so big, just stand up. Leave us alone.
Go over there, let them dangle. So this is this idea of taking space, right? So that often we ask permission for someone else. They're like, oh, is it okay if I do this thing, or is it okay if I say this thing? But we have a tendency to like look outwards for permission instead of taking it ourselves and taking that step forward and having that thought and having that voice. And instead of, I think often if you're going around in a circle and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, to try and challenge yourself to go, just going to take a step forward and say this one thing, even if it's a small thing. Even if you are just agreeing with what someone else has said, and then at least you're getting your voice out there and your point of view. You're like, oh yeah, what Joanne said, I really like what she said. And there are different things that you could do apart from taking your time, breathing, like we spoke about before. But a great technique is what I like about your idea. Have you heard of this before?
No.
Okay. So this is a wonderful technique to use, particularly if you're working with someone that says something you disagree with. So, for example, if someone gives a really big statement and they say, women shouldn't breastfeed in public. Yeah, it's something I disagree with as me. So someone says this, I disagree. But if I just say to that person, oh, I disagree with you. Oh, you're terrible. Oh, this is awful. That person will shut down and they won't listen to anything else I'll say because they're just going to go into conflict and it just becomes combative. No one listens to anybody. And it's just, I'm right, you're wrong. Which will only get you so far. Same as in politics. It's like, I'm going to discredit what you say to make myself right. Whereas instead of doing that, if we use this technique, which is, okay, someone says, I think we shouldn't have breastfeeding in public. What I can say is, what I like about your idea is you're thinking about the public space and how we can make it a safe space for different people, knowing that there is the possibility that we're sharing the space with lots of different people who have different points of view, different needs, different moments, different things, different cultures, whatever it might be. So I'm not just saying no and negating that person so that they still listen to me and their ego is fine. But I'm still bringing it around and justifying it to my point of view. So I'm like, okay, this is your thing. Now I'm going to take it to my space, my place, and say what I like about your idea is this thing. And then it becomes an actual conversation. They can say it back. They can say something again that I disagree with. And I go, okay, great. What I liked about your idea, or what that was interesting to me was, or that made me feel, or this is important to me because. So all ways of saying yes to what the person has said, agreeing with it, listening to it, actively being present with it and not just going, fuck you. But I'm going, you know what, that makes me feel this, or that's important to me because of this.
That's a very good technique for keeping the dialogue open. So you don't, immediately go into conflict.
And like, that's important to me. If you say something like that's important to me because whatever, ... it's adding yourself into the story. So you are taking that space, you're bringing it back into you and you're like, this is my point of view. And it's very hard when someone brings in emotion and their own thoughts and their own perspective. It's really hard to argue against that. Like, well, from my point of view, this is important to me because my friends have babies and I want to have a coffee with them and they should be able to breastfeed anywhere they want. So it's my reality. Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. So it's a good one.
And people should be able to breastfeed wherever they can.
And free the nip.
Wherever they want.
Yes. And so I thought we could do a little reflection exercise for you.
Sure.
And because this is all well and good, but when you feel very small, how to kind of have some like little angel on your shoulder, like a little devil angel, because we have the devil who speaks very loudly, like, oh, your point of view is not valid, you shouldn't take up space, don't interrupt, all these kind of like, don't do that, don't rock the boat. Whereas if we can build up a little kind of angel on the side who is on the other side of your shoulder being like, you can do this, how do you feel? So I'm going to, you can close your eyes if you want to, not if you're driving out there.
I'm going to close my eyes.
You can close your eyes. So just breathe for a moment. Think about a moment where you felt that your opinion was not valid. Maybe you can think of a place where no one was going to listen. And then to counteract that, who in your life encourages you to be your whole self? So who can you think about in your life who makes you feel strong and capable and your own self? And then going back to the negative one, what triggers me to not share my ideas? What is about that place, that person, that moment, that context that triggers me to not share my ideas? And then the angel on the other side, what would taking up space look like? Who can I have on my shoulder who's giving me that encouragement to be my whole self? And then what would that look like? How can I visualize that idea of taking up that space? Okay, and you can open your eyes again. How did that feel?
Good. I actually found it quite hard to find a situation where I felt like I wasn't allowed to say my opinion.
And that's because the way you've set up your life and the way that you live your life, and you work for yourself an awful lot of the time.
Exactly. I don't have much option. Like I have to say my opinion and speak up. Otherwise, nothing happens.
Yeah. No, and I have the same thing when you work for yourself. It's often not something that comes up so often. But even if you're doing that if you're working for yourself and someone is like, I'll pay you 500 euros for this thing. And you're like, no, I'm worth more than that. So in negotiation, it's a huge thing of like, I'll take the job. 500 euros is an awful lot of money. I'll take it. It's like, wait, what is my hourly rate? How many hours will this entail? I'm going to speak up and say, actually, that's 1,000 euros worth of my time and my skill. But if you don't value your skill and you don't have that little person on your shoulder kind of saying, yeah, you can do it, you're worth it, you have this skill that you're bringing something to the table and your point of view is to be heard, then your space will just get squashed.
Yeah. Knowing your worth in anything, in any kind of negotiation, if you're renegotiating your salary or your kind of
your rent
or you are a freelancer and you're negotiating a gig or a contract with a client, those are tricky conversations. And it is about finding a middle ground, of course, sometimes. Like, people have budgets and that's okay.
Compromise. It's okay.
And I'm like, you tell me your budget, like where are you? And I'll say, this is my hourly rate, because there is flexibility within it. But you do have to respect your worth and how much time it's going to take you and whether it's going to be even worth it. Sometimes from a freelance point of view, sometimes it's not worth it.
Some gigs are like, why did I say yes?
And we get it a lot actually in voiceover, a lot where people ask us to work for
exposure.
Next to nothing.
It's exposure.
Oh God, exposure.
Oh my God, the stupid word.
Oh my God, I love eating exposure and I love paying my rent with exposure. I'm like,
yeah, I don't need any exposure.
No.
Yes, exposure is wonderful, but dude,
yeah,
girls gotta eat.
Yeah, we gotta pay our bills.
Yeah.
Gotta make that money.
Bitch better have that money. Pay me what you owe me. Yeah, Rihanna. Yeah.
It's how do you want to pay? I always come back to this. How do you want to pay? Do you want to pay or do you want to pay? Do you want to pay with money or do you want to pay with your time, effort and energy wasted? Even in my day-to-day life, say I'm booking a flight. It's like, how do I want to pay? Do I want to pay with money and fly direct? Or do I want to pay with my time and have like a 4-hour layover somewhere? It really depends on what you can pay with at that point.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. You shouldn't be punished for being great at your job, right? There is a wonderful video that I will also try and find, but I have no idea how to find it, about a guy and he's in a room and he's explaining like, okay, you want a new logo made. It will cost 10,000 euros for me to make you a new logo. And the guy goes, okay, but why are you, what's your hourly rate? And he's like, I can tell you my hourly rate, but it will, what do you value more? The time or my skill? And it's like, I shouldn't be punished because I'm really skillful. So yeah, maybe it only takes me an hour to make your thing, but you're paying for everything that's behind that. But it goes back to the same thing of you need to toot your own horn and say that you're great at this thing. And like, I'm worth 10,000 euros to make this logo. That's what it costs because of all of my expertise. Or expertise?
I'm an expert tease.
That's better.
It's all about the emphasis. Whole new meaning.
Little pause.
Little pause.
Little poodle.
Oh, now I'm just thinking of like paws.
Me too.
Like animal
Little
paws.
poodle pause.
Little patitas.
Little petitas. We haven't said any Spanish in this episode.
Yeah, haven't we?
Didn't we? I don't think so.
Don't think so. I cut the Spanish anyway. No, I'm joking.
Primero pod.
Primero pod. What is this? The
Septimo pod.
Septimo
pod.
Septimo pod. Sí. There you go. Sí, claro que sí.
Claro que sí.
That's how I sound like I'm fluent in Spanish. People say something, I'm like, sí, claro que sí. Claro, sí.
Que sí.
Es claro que sí.
Pues que sí.
Pues que sí.
Throw a little
Pues
in there.
nada.
Throw a little pues nada.
Pues nada.
So that's it from us for this week. This has been Let's See It with Kiva Murphy, myself, and herself, Rebecca Tanwin. Thank you very much for listening. Please share any of your ideas and thoughts and tips about taking up space, and we will see you next time.
See you soon.
Bye.
Taking up space in your ear holes.
In your ear holes?
Yeah.
That's where the sound comes in.
In your ear holes.